The meeting recording has begun.
Are you okay with that, Karina? I call the meeting to order at 1400 to 2 p.m. A quorum is not present because the committee lacks a quorum. We cannot take any votes, make recommendations, or provide consolidated guidance on the 2027 budget. So this meeting is now limited to informational discussion only. So any budget matters discussed today will be revisited at a future meeting if necessary.
So having said that, how do we start?
This is an informational meeting now. We don't have a quorum.
Yeah, so Andre did send me his opinion, and really that's all I'm looking for, no decision, nothing. I'm just looking for an opinion from each of you regarding the budget. So I will read Andre's opinion. Based on the Kenneth Brown 10-point test, I feel like the town budget is an okay place. Not to be a dead horse, but just want to reiterate what we have been saying at the meetings, that we need to keep a close eye on everything, because there are a lot of risk factors that we are exposed to. Reduction in interest rates, housing prices falling, and having a few unexpected expenditures. And that was his opinion of the budget.
So did you see my last email with some questions? So the 10-point didn't have a number on line item 10.
Yeah, I didn't answer that.
Oh,
It's because, well, that's regarding pension. We do not control the pension. I can't rate something that the town has no control over the liabilities or assets. We contribute and they then distribute it to the employees, so it's not on the council. I could not score that. So I did go back and on my worksheet, I then put everything 4 points down as the for the scoring. So the town falling in having a score of 27 would still keep us in a stable moderate for 20 to 27.
But yeah, that was something I could not score because we don't have no pet plan that we manage, that we control.
so that means it would never get a score?
No, because we don't control it. We contribute to the Maryland State Retirement. This is something, this ratio is to see how well funded is our pension that we are obligated to pay out to employees. Well, we aren't. We pay into it. And so I can't put a score on something, but I also didn't want to remove it from the listing there because it was one of those, I guess, criterias in this scoring.
So two
But-
comments there. On one hand, since we can't score because it's not our plan, that artificially lowers our overall score.
Well, yes, but then if you take and you shift the interpreting scores down 4 points, so a strong overall financial condition would then look at 28 to 36, and then stable to moderate would be 20 to 27, emerging stress 12 to 19, and then potential structural concerns would be 12 and below.
Okay. I should know the answer to this question because I've looked at those documents that you provided many, many times, but is the budget balanced?
Yes, the budget is
Okay,
balanced.
and I would conclude, I think, that means an increase in tax rate for our residents.
Well,
She's
No, no.
integrated everything into the budget.
No.
Because they got the 3%, what was that raise they got for layoffs a year ago or 2 years ago?
Well, that was a 3-cent
A
increase.
3 cent.
So the report that I got, so there's also another one, which is my revenue projections. Let me bring up my revenue book. And in there, I have a report that I get from the state, and the state tells me what the estimated assessable base is. And I take their number and say, okay, that is how much we're going to collect on. And it went up considerably. So on just the assessable base, it's almost 7.2 million for real property tax. And last year's was 6.4.
That's
And-
the legislative portion.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And then we're talking to planning because the state accounts for the permits and they're also adjusting for mid-year construction completion, all that. So that's why I take their number. But then I ask, well, how many applications are pending? Because that's not going to be included in the state number. And so I'm taking the number that planning says that there's approximately 1,601 that have not been approved yet. And they're estimating 543 would be approved. And then taking that based on a estimated home value of 400, that would be about 700,000 in potential revenue. But then thinking, well, this is not full year. This could be partial year, 3/4 year. So I even decreased that more to, so I added 186,900 based on taking half of those out and then taking another quarter and saying that they're not going to happen. So I reduced that amount and then added that into the state's amount. And I am putting the real property tax revenue at $7,385,077. That's what I have in there.
So forgive me because this keeps causing me to dig into deeper questions, but is there a projection that we will be approving more building permits?
I don't have them in my numbers, no. I just have what applications are there. If it hasn't been, if
Okay.
we don't have the application, I'm not including
That's
it.
good and
No,
conservative
no.
because I think it's a real problem because we still haven't solved the water
Yeah.
problem.
No, this is just the application. These are applications that have not been issued a permit because the permit I know the state already has and they've already incorporated in their number. So this is just the applications. Because I've always increased what the state's given us and we've always, like I said, but we've always been lower, but not by much, by me making these increases based on applications.
So then if there was a breakthrough, a resolution to the water problem, and that would result in more permits, that actually helps us,
It would.
bottom line.
It would. And it also depends on when it's built because it's with this
yeah.
assessed when the use and occupancy permit is issued. So, or not necessarily, but the permit's issued. So,
Right. I understand that.
yeah.
So going back to the budget itself, the 3 cents is incorporated in here, the LEOPS is incorporated in here. What has been stricken from the budget?
Nothing.
If or changed? I've noticed civilian positions are
Well,
moving, or
there
they're
are.
either moving or they're going.
So, we're adding, well, civilian positions in the PD department, they're adding an admin, a full-time admin. We are adding a town engineer. There's a crew leader at the wastewater treatment plant to cover a night shift. And then the planning's admin is going from part-time to full-time. I think that's everything.
And you've done that within the budget that we
Yes.
have here.
Yeah. Bear in mind, the tax and the income tax with the real property tax increased our revenue over $1 million between those two.
But you've always said that when the revenue, when that income tax is increased, the services increase
Yeah.
with it. So
And
I
so,
guess-
yeah, so that's why we've added new positions in there.
Okay, so that's been
Mhm.
taken into
Yeah.
consideration with the growth.
Yes.
You also mentioned that the budget calls for a new position, engineer/project manager,
Mhm.
to address some of these projects that are funded by the ARPA.
Yeah. I actually created a new department code for engineering.
And which department would that individual reside in?
Public Works, it'd be
Public
under the
Works.
Public Works umbrella, but they're in their own department, engineering department, under the
Okay.
Public Works umbrella.
So assuming the budget is approved for 27, which begins this July, right?
Mhm.
How soon could that position be?
That's an HR question. Yeah, that's an HR question.
And are we, I think you've answered this before, but I just feel like I have to ask it again. Are we at risk of losing any of those ARPA funds?
Well, the ARPA's completed. We've exhausted all of our ARPA funds. When we knew that we weren't going to be able to complete the projects and assign them, the council reappropriated those funds to cover salaries. And then the project reserve was created to designate funds to the original projects. And those funds are still there. I think there's like 4.8 million in there for different projects. Actually, we've expensed everything for the general fund. The remaining balance in there is for the enterprise funds, mostly for water and stormwater.
Okay, and since the budget is being presented as balanced, we're not jeopardizing reserve balances.
Well, not in the operating. There are reserve balances, the unassigned reserve balance or the unassigned fund balance for capital.
Okay. But there is, regardless of that, there's still a risk with lowering interest rates.
Oh, yes. And I accounted for that. So there's another tab in the revenue where I have the amounts that we currently have based on FY 25 ending fund balances. And then I'm using a 2.7 investment earning rate for the remainder of 26 and a 2% for the first half of 27. And then from the amounts that are in the fund balance for each of the funds, I'm then taking out what we're designating to use for capital improvements and then calculating the investment earnings based on that amount. So the investments earnings have gone down from last year's budget or from FY 26 to FY 27. I believe it's like 95 or 98,000 and the general fund decreased in investment earnings.
Is the town planning on taking any loans in the next year?
No, not necessarily, but we probably are going to take debt out on the stormwater for the MS4, only because we don't want to increase rates for something that will end once we complete it. So we're looking at probably not FY 27, but maybe FY 28 or FY 29 doing that in stormwater only.
And that can't be covered using any of the escrow funds that we allocated money to recently?
No, because I've already accounted for that, those for the general fund. And the only ones that out of the general funds can be used for stormwater is in the project reserve, which I've already accounted for the projects that are currently in the budget. But there is an option, instead of going out and taking debt out from an outside source, the general fund could loan the stormwater fund funds to cover the project, and the stormwater then pays back the general fund.
What's the next step?
Next step for,
I mean, you now have a proposed balance
Mhm.
budget,
so,
to take that to the council?
yes. So what I'm looking for is your opinion on the revenues forecasts that I did. Your opinion on the fiscal stability of the budget, and then the I don't have it in front of me. There's three things. And then in regards to the 10-point test on the sustainability of the
I think
budget.
that needs a bigger conversation. I mean, using the 10-point thing is in, I think it's good, but we're not well versed in it. We're not well read in it.
Okay,
And then
so,
just
yeah.
doing, the numbers, that's one thing, but to actually say that to actually evaluate, I think it takes more than just plugging the numbers in, which I think probably all we've done.
So I put
Well-
this together because I basically took the formulas and then I did an inflation on the revenues and everything for the benchmarks because those were old. So basically, it just kind of gives you an idea of where we score within other municipalities. But I've added that inflation factor in it. So like the property revenue score is low because we are heavily dependent on taxes to support our operating. And if something happens and our revenue drop because, say, assessment values fall or became stagnant, well, that's a concern because that's where we're getting most of our revenues from. So having that reserve that we're setting up, where that other sheet, the allocations, help support to minimize the effects of that.
I guess two thoughts that I had on that was, excuse me, I think at the last meeting, it was brought up that relative to some other municipalities, we have a small commercial base. And you were heavily dependent upon a residential
Mhm.
tax base, which apparently comparative to commercial is less.
I've heard the same thing, and that's why we have the land use study. And that's in progress right now. So once that's completed, we'll be able to get a better understanding of it. But at this time, I don't have a good understanding because we don't really know how much revenue is supported by each of these because residents are pretty easy. Residential is pretty easy to calculate, but the commercial is kind of harder because it's two pieces to that. So we do have that study happening. So hopefully when we get that, we'll have a better idea of what direction we need to go.
Yeah, I raised that because kind of to your point, when I looked at the 10-point list and saw the number, then I looked at it globally. Okay, the score was like 67.5 if you average it all out, which as a person who's grown up in school, that's a low score. And we would want a higher score. So what could cause it to be higher? So the idea of the more commercial.
Yeah,
Small.
so where we got the low score was the dependent on property tax. That means finding other sources of revenue that's not dependent on property tax. And then we scroll low on the operating surplus because we are literally our revenues and are covering our operating expenses. I think we have like 1.4% that's a surplus that's supporting capital. So that surplus is now in the capital budget to support the capital purchases. And then the other that was low was the long-term debt. And that really is not I guess the town's thing, because that is the debt that we took out, but has specific purposes to be covered by the major facility fee or cover the USDA loan, but that's still general obligation bonds that was issued under. So I had to include that number in. I did not include the special taxing because that was not general obligation. That was for the special taxing, but the USDA loans and some of the other loans that we are using that the major facility fees are paying because it qualified under that umbrella, but they were still special obligation bonds, which if, say, we run out of the major facility fees, then we have to pay that with taxes. So that's why I put that number is, so it's kind of, it doesn't give a full picture because we have already said that we were going to pay that debt with the major facility fees because the debt was because of the increased capacity to the wastewater treatment plant, but it's still a it's still a general obligation bond. So that's why so that's a little misleading there.
So I'm getting a sense of comfort from you that we have these buckets to pay for the debt. But you also said earlier in that conversation that, you know, I mean, my words, we're kind of on the skin of our teeth with operating.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the budget, you don't see it, there's not a surplus. And then the amount that if we did not transfer it to capital is minimal. So
what if we had an emergency?
well, that's what the reserves are for. So we do have the unassigned fund balance, which we're reallocating, or not reallocating, but reassigning to those reserves based on the policy, which I did also send that
So
sheet
it
to
might be
everybody.
too soon to know. Do you know the financial impact on the town as a result of the late December, late January snowstorm?
Not completely, but I know it's exceeded the budget, but we do have a the storm reserve, which is as of July 1st is going to roll into the emergency reserve, but that already has a surplus from when we were supposed to maintain 100,000 in there and it was like 132,000. So those funds are going to support anything overage for the storms.
Okay,
It feels very, very tight.
yes.
It feels like you're going paycheck to paycheck, and if you take a couple of sick days, you might be in trouble. That's.
And when you're talking in operating terms,
Yes.
yes, yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, because there's
no
no.
wiggle room here,
There,
is there?
we are not putting, we're putting, I believe, 140,000 in towards capital. The rest of the revenue that's coming in is supporting operating. So yes.
So when you were back in the beginning seeking input for wants and needs from the various departments, what were the wants and needs in the capital arena? I mean, I can
So,
almost equate that back to the projects.
yeah, so I do have a listing, but I didn't save it to my, here, but you guys do have the budget that shows you the different, categories, subcategories that they're in. So if you look at the general fund capital budget, you can see what departments. So the first page, well, you guys don't have the summary, but well, you do have the summary. It's just a different document, but the summary shows you each department and what, how much of the capital budget is going to each of those departments. And then if you go into the details, you can see that, we've got it. Well, I wouldn't account the project because that goes in and out. But you've got the reappropriation of the, unassigned fund balance. Oh, it's 124,000. That's, being, is the capital contribution from the, revenues on the operating side. Then there's some grants that are in here. Then if you go into, the next page, then it goes into the different departments. So under finance, we have, an intangible asset, which is 35,000. That's for a budget program. HR has 60,000 for intangible, which is a, comp study. Then planning, is the 90,000 for the land use study. And the only reason I'm putting in here is because we don't know when that's going to be done, or even though we're under contract, it hasn't really started. They're gathering data right now, so I don't know when the product's going to be done. And the 172 is for, Safe Streets for All, which is supported by a grant. Then there's, network infrastructure improvements, which is 130,000.
That's like
Uh,
internet network, or what do you mean by network?
something dealing with IT.
Okay,
Yeah, it's IT. And then, the transfer for the project reserve, which is supported by the revenue transfer, that's because that project reserve is under the general fund that needs to support those projects in the enterprise fund. 135 for the, police cruisers. And then, oh, that also includes a, radar unit. Then 98,000 for intangible, which is an upgrade to their Cody system, which I'm not exactly sure what it does, but they need to upgrade it. Public Works is looking for a vehicle for 100,000. Facilities, a vehicle for 100,000. Let's see, the Firehouse Museum, 144,000. Now 39,000 is part of that project reserve. Then there's
sorry, can I back you up. Fire Department Museum,
the Firehouse Museum.
The one over by the old railroad, they have that. Is it over by
the
there?
train station?
No,
no.
it's the Fire Museum. No, I think it's
It's upstairs in the building.
around where the Green Turtle, I think, is like off one of those roads or something.
They took, you weren't there for the trip, were you?
No, I wasn't.
We went to it there.
So it's not the current police. Oh, is it the,
It's where
by the election?
I think so. And I think they've got
Upstairs, right?
I think they've got, don't they have fire engine there too?
I'm not sure. I haven't been there.
Yeah, I know, okay.
But the upstairs, which is supposed to be a museum, it's needs a lot of work.
So the budget call, I keep getting back on this project thing, with the budget calls for an engineer project manager, which is really a great thing, to get some of these projects off and going. But will that person be challenged in being able to make sure these things get paid for?
Well, we have it in the budget and we have the funds in the unassigned fund balance, which is what's supporting the budget. So issues of money is not a concern right now for these projects.
Is your definition of a town engineer also the project manager for all?
It will,
That is
the
what they're
job
planning.
description will include that. Yes.
In response to one of my questions, it was about plan check. We're going to be managing plan check differently? going
Well,
forward?
so basically what we're going to do is right now, when somebody submits a application for a permit, it comes to planning, they enter in all the information, then they communicate what they need done to plan check, and then they collect the fees from the resident that they pay us, and then plan check does the work, and then we pay plan check, and then we get, it's a hassle. What we're trying to do is saying, okay, the resident or developer fills out the application. There's going to be an application fee, which there was some fees incorporated for our time and plan checks fees. And then we're going to basically, the application comes in, planning reviews it, planning tells plan check what needs to be done. Plan check does the work, collects the payment from the resident or the developer, sends us saying everything's been completed and good, and we issue the permit. So now we don't have that revenue and expense. That's a wash through for us.
Which is also going to drop some workload.
Yeah.
It's administrative workload, but.
I mean, they're still going to be reviewing and confirming and
Yeah,
everything, and that's why we have the
still needs to
application
Know
fee.
what's being done. What
Yeah.
has been.
Yeah, but it kind of miscrews because it's not a revenue really to us and it's not expense to us. It's just a pass-through cost that we're collecting to pay plan check to do the work. And this is not unusual because other municipalities actually do what we're now trying to do, is where plan check says, okay, these permits or these inspections need to be done. They go to the resident, the developer pays them, they do the inspection and then sends us the results.
Very different approach to this year than what we did last year.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes, so with the new town manager, he's kind of looking at it a different way, that he really wants you guys to give an opinion on the budget, not really go through the budget or decide what, or make recommendations on where we should spend, but give us an idea, your opinion of how stable is the budget, how the sustainability of the budget, and the revenue projections.
I think you summed it up really well. It's tight.
It's very.
I mean, it's balanced, which is a good
Mhm.
thing. I sat in on the last town council meeting.
I watched it.
That's what I meant. I watched it, and it's good that LEOPS is in there because it's evident to me that the council clearly wants LEOPS, and it's in there with a balanced budget. I think that's along the lines I'd asked the question earlier that you haven't really begun yet, about a couple years in advance. Can
Yeah.
keep on affording it.
Well, and that's so subject. I mean, because when we gave that information, we gave the information in comparison to what we're doing now, and they kind of wanted it to be a whole picture of everything. Well, first of all, I don't have time to do that. I gave you, this is what we're doing now, and this is what the net increase would be if we changed. But they wanted to see, they wanted to see what, I'm like, well, we can go hire somebody else to do it because I don't have the time or the capacity with everything going on to do it.
Too.
Yes, exactly. But if that's what you want, we can go ahead and do it. But yes, we're going to have revenue grow as the town grows, the police force will grow, so the pension amount will grow, but everything else grows too. That means as the revenue comes in, it's not just supporting the police, it's going to have to support everything. So
think
you can't just look at one piece and say, oh, we need to see the revenue that will support this. Well, that revenue is also going to support everything else. I gave you one piece of information, showed you what the net difference is over time between the two plans. And they kind of blew it up into something else.
Yeah, well. After I listened to that, I was like, okay, this has gone off on a tangent. It just,
Yeah.
you know, it was evident that LEOPS was going to be
Mhm.
in. And I wish that when we had looked at LEOPS as a group, had a little bit more of a feel for that, because I think when we were asked to prepare that PowerPoint and
Mhm.
everything, I don't think we produced a document that was worthy of the committee, because I don't think we were looking at the right things. You know, we were looking at ways of funding LEOPS when it was already funded, and that
Yeah,
piece
I
was
understand.
missing from that entire
Yeah.
process from all of us. I mean, we thought we were being asked to give recommendations or suggestions to fund.
And well, it was
The extra
really,
cost.
it was more of an analysis because we're trying to get, although the finance committee was originally asked for recommendations and suggestions, that's now switched to giving opinions and analysis.
And monitoring for activities that are outside of what we've been told were going to happen.
Yeah, so it's,
Yeah,
that concept of that change became clear to me at our last meeting and even more clear when we watched the town council. And so,
we were not on the same page as you guys. When I watched that town council, it was really evident that what we thought we were giving was one thing, and what needed to be done was completely different. If that makes sense, because we did not look at,
Mhm.
we should have seen this. If we'd have known this,
Mhm.
if we'd have had this data when we talked about LEOPS before, it would have been a completely different look at it.
well, the
It's-
sense that I
don't-
would give along those lines is, I think we're now in a position that what we should be advising is, if you make the decision this way, this is what we see are the consequences. We either make money or we lose money, whatever the concept is.
Yeah, I think it's more of, don't make recommendations, don't make any suggestions, but provide an analysis or an opinion on something. So, yeah, there's so many variables that things can change, even in what we gave the council regarding LEOPS. It was very clearly stated, these are estimates and projections based on what we have now.
So
Next
if
year
I
could
take
totally
that-
change.
If I take that back to the questions you were asking us in the way of opinions, I think you're hearing from both of us that the budget is balanced, it's tight.
Okay.
And if I take that back to the 10-point score, I, for one, would want to see that score to be higher. So we need to figure out what are the things that should be addressed to be able to make it higher.
Well, if
And
you
is
look,
that in
so-
our purview now? Because we're not, I'm trying to understand what we're supposed to be doing as
Well,
well.
here's how I would answer that question. We're also representing our citizens.
Exactly.
Okay, and
I
so,
feel that piece is getting taken away a little bit.
but we're still being asked our opinion. So
Mhm.
we can express our opinion, keeping in mind that we're trying to think about the citizens also.
Yeah.
And that's why I started early with the
Mhm.
tax rate. There'll be
Yeah.
a tax rate change, but that was not unexpected.
Well, there is no, the tax rate is not changing. The tax rate is still staying 35 cents per 100 assessed value. It's not changing. Our assessment value increased, which increases our taxes.
Well-
So there's no change in our tax rate. The tax
Okay,
rate
so
was changed 2 years ago.
Back up to our last meeting where we did a calculation that we thought the layups cost would be a certain number of cents
Mhm.
on that. What I'm hearing from you now is the increase in assessment counters that.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
okay.
And that was the missing piece, wasn't it?
Well, also, I
At
didn't,
that time,
Yeah,
that's
time,
correct.
yes.
I
But
didn't-
it's clearly what we were
Yeah.
hearing from the council.
Yes.
at that
Oh,
meeting.
yes, that came across.
so
loud
the
and clear.
assessment I got on the 14th or the 13th, the day I sent you guys the budget report is when I received that assessment from the state. And I think it was like 80,000 lower than what I originally assessed, which I, based on my calculations, based on what it was trending and what FY 20 or 2026 numbers are compared to FY 27 numbers. So it was, I was a little, off, but that amount came from the state and it was,
80,000 based on the total assessed value.
no, when I was projection, so I had some projections in, my revenues that I did for, let me bring up, where's my revenues? On my revenue sheet, I have projections and I had projections based on 25 amounts. And my projection was 2.7. And then once I got the state's amount, their projection was 7.198. And then when I did based on applications, I made it 7.385 million. But I couldn't get that number until they send me the report. And they sent me the report the day I sent you guys. So then I updated the revenues based on that. But as far as the 10-point study, there's only 3 areas. One, we really have no control over, and I really don't think it should be a consideration because the debt has a specific revenue source that it's going to pay for it. But because it's general obligation bonds, it's still, I put that amount in because that's what they are.
So what would be our aggregate score if we only use 9?
Well, if we did 9, it would be, because the OPEB we can't use. And if I adjusted the scoring by 4 points, we still end up on the higher end of stable to moderate, because then that would be a score between 20 and 27, and we've got 27. But like I said, the long-term debt is misleading because of how we've already designated funding to support that debt, even though it's general obligation bonds. But I was trying to be very specific, as that's what they're using, that's what they're saying to use, so that's what I'm putting in. The operating surplus is because the revenues are very closely covering our expenses. The idea is to have a surplus to go into a savings account, and we aren't having much going in there. And then the property tax revenues are low because we are very heavily reliant on those taxes, and we don't have other sources of funding to support our operating. And that could be ongoing grants. The only operating grant we really have is for the police, which is the 190,000. We don't have any other grants for operating costs. We have for capital, but not operating. And then the fees that we charge, which is really mainly planning to support the cost for specific permits or inspections by a specific resident. That's one of the few fees is that we charge on the general fund side. The enterprise fund side is different, but this is for the general fund. So we don't have other revenues that are supporting the operating costs. And that's why that's lower.
So I guess part of what I'm talking about is not only representing citizenry, but my past history on the planning commission. Seems like the same things keep coming up. As a town, we need to continue focusing on the long-term demand for water. Or are we going to stop growing as a town? We don't have water, we're going to stop growing as a town, right?
Yeah,
And
which could be a good or bad thing anyways. I mean, it could go either way.
then the land use study,
Mhm.
the results of that will
Yeah.
be real valuable. And I guess those are the 2 things I get out of this.
Just
batch
wish
of
there was a
information
little
gives.
more room in the budget, to do we put some money more into reserves or?
Yeah.
I
What-
feel like it's like, I'm
Listen,
going back to
Yeah.
paycheck to paycheck.
But
Yeah.
here's another thing, we have a large savings balance. I mean, comparatively, we really do. But the concern is once we start spending that on projects and we don't find somewhere of when we're going to start
To
taking
rebuild.
some of those operating revenues and put them back into for capital, that's going to be a problem. It may not be a problem with this budget, but maybe a few years from now, it might be a problem when we start the new police station, we start the new public works building, we start rearranging out there.
So, you know, when you're asking all the other departments for input on budgets, you're also asking your own, right? Your own department. That's important because you want to maintain that there is an ongoing influx of funds into reserves when we know we're going to take money out.
Mhm.
Because it definitely would be fiscally responsible if we allowed
Yeah.
those funds to
Yeah.
deplete.
And that's part of the reason why we have that reserve policy. So although this budget doesn't necessarily put much into the reserve because we're transferring the surplus to capital to support the capital, because we're still going to have to take out of the unassigned, but we're reassigning that unassigned fund balance to those different reserves that were established. Let's see where. So for FY 27, as of July 1st, we're going to take out 4.1 million from the unassigned and allocate 1.48 to emergency reserves, almost just over 2 million to the economic downturn reserve. The technology reserve will have 97,000. The contingency reserve will have, right now it has 1.6, it will increase to 2.1, so another 543,000 from there. The capital reserve, we currently have 3.6 million in there, and based on the capital improvement plan, I don't see us needing to transfer any funds into there.
You
So-
used the term that I don't think I've heard before,
Mm.
economic downturn reserve.
Yeah, that was one of those in case, because we get reassessed every 3 years, maybe the assessments are flat. Now, as we grow and our assessments are flat, that increase isn't it
Which
with real
further
property
reinforces
tax.
your concern about the tight budget.
So,
I mean, it's a workable budget,
mhm.
in my opinion. It's actually, I think it's for where we are and the fact
Mhm.
we're having to catch up on some things that were obviously outstanding, that the direction is that they're going to happen, like LEOPS
Mhm.
and different things like that. I think the budget, considering we're coming into March, I think it's okay. I just think it could be better. And maybe next year,
You basically, what you're saying is there should be a larger surplus to go into a reserve, is what you're saying.
yeah.
Okay.
When, who's going to take this to council, Chuck or you?
Chuck.
And when is that scheduled?
Well, so I have to have the document for council by this, well, I have to have it to Chuck by Monday, and then he's going to give it to council on the 3rd, and then we meet on the 17th. And this all-day thing on the 17th, it's open to the public. And they'll go, that's where they go in and ask questions about how we're spending, how it's allocated, whatever they want.
It's open to
Right.
the public. Is that
Mhm.
going to be an online or in person?
I don't know. It's going to be in here.
Okay. The 17th.
Mhm.
I was afraid you were going to say the 10th. I can't attend the 10th.
We have one on the 12th. March, we have our regular.
We have
meeting.
a PLATA meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Our regular,
I mean, the finance committee.
finance committee's on the
Right, okay.
12th, yeah. And having watched the council and how they think, this is going to be an interesting meeting for you.
Mhm. Well, I've reiterated it maybe a million times. This is not my budget. This is what the departments are asking, and this is what the town manager has prepared. Well, this is what the town manager has directed me to prepare, and it's the council who chooses what's in it or not. I just prepare the document based on all the information that comes to me.
Has it been done this way in the years past, public meeting like that?
Yeah.
All day?
Oh, yeah. Well,
How much the
last
public
time,
shows up?
it depends. I mean, sometimes, there's quite a few, sometimes there isn't. It depends on what's in the budget. I mean, last time we did it over during regular and special meetings. Cause they meet it every other Tuesday and we just made it like Tuesday back and to get the whole budget at one
So
time.
in advance of the 17th, how will this be advertised to the public?
I believe it goes in the paper. I think it goes out when council goes out. I will confirm with the town manager, but I'm pretty sure it's to the public when, well, it's right now. I mean, the budget's on this agenda for the public to view. It's changed since then, but very minutely, like the radar units actually went up 1,000, so I added that. And then there was a grant that the police are working to subsidize some of the car costs. We're looking at changing our payment platform and how we assess credit card fees. So I've incorporated that in there. And then a few minor things. Oh, like planning and zoning, we're going to look at online application instead of all these paper applications. So I got that quote. So I've added that in there. So small changes. I think the total change net effect on the operating is like $3,000 that I've made.
So going forward, we'll go back first. There was 3 cents increase 2 years ago now. Okay, and I remember you saying, and I think it was probably at the council meeting, that the 3 cents got absorbed into the
Mhm.
budget.
Mm-hmm.
So now obviously the budget has been built with that incorporated in it. So what else is expected? Is there anything out there that's outstanding that hasn't been done, that has been promised? Because it sounded in that meeting like there were a lot of things that had been approved in past meetings that haven't come to fruition that could
Well,
potentially impact the budget.
it hasn't been approved. There's nothing that's been, there's been communications that when this whole LEOPS thing and pension thing, that Public Works would be involved.
That's, yeah. I knew there was
That, I mean, this is a council thing.
They were
I'm,
promised it as well.
yeah, I
But the
don't,
budget doesn't
I'm not-
include.
no,
No.
it doesn't. I have
So
not
that's
been
still
directed.
outstanding.
Yeah, well, no, I have not been directed to put it in there.
No, and
So
there's no
yeah.
program at the moment that you could put them into either. There's not, I mean, the LEOPS is a
Yeah.
specific program. I mean, if their retirement needs to be enhanced, you would end
Well,
up.
there's
doing it.
other options.
Yeah. but I
There's
mean,
other
it's something
options,
that's-
but that has not been, that has not been something that council has directed to be in the budget. And that has not been something that I've been directed to put in the budget. So it's.
But there is chatter, just so you know.
Oh, I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is.
So where you were going reminds me, again, back when I was on the planning commission and we did the comprehensive plan, which we're probably midway through. That's like every 10 years, right? So
I think,
29, 30
I think in 28, we have it on our capital improvement plan.
to begin
Mhm.
the work on it. That
Yep.
makes sense.
Yep.
But I recall that when we did it the last time, there was a lot of discussion about a lot of things that the town, we were committing the town to do. Committing might not be the right word. I guess it would require me to take a look at the comprehensive plan again, but I think some of those things might be an answer to your question, Karen, about what are we not covering? And I'm suggesting there might be things from the current comprehensive plan that were suggestive that the town should take on that we might
Mhm.
not be covering.
Well, there probably is, but it's up to the department to prioritize that on like the capital improvement plan. I'm not putting anything in there unless the department says they're going to do it and they need to do it. So I look at that and look at how much we have. And right now with our capital improvement plan, the funding that we have in the unassigned fund balance and what we're going to allocate to these reserves, we're fine. If, once we get the facilities master study back, that could easily change. I don't know that until I get that information.
Do we have any idea how many outstanding items that have been passed by the previous council that have not made it to the budget,
Well,
other than the public works?
I wouldn't say it's been passed. That means they have not given us direction to do it.
But
There's
if they
been,
vote on it and they all,
they didn't vote on public works. They
Yeah.
only, they only
Okay.
voted on the LEOPS.
well,
So,
but they mentioned that there were multiple, and this may have just been them being them, but there were multiple things that the previous council had said would happen and were voted on that had potential costs with them that have not occurred.
so it hasn't been voted on because that was when we were doing this study of what type of pension plans could we wrap around the Maryland state. Well, that didn't go anywhere. There has not been any direction to do any type of matching. So there hasn't been any vote or any request from council to put in any type of benefits or retirement benefits for employees except for LEOPS.
So what
that's the
about
only
stuff
direction.
outside of the pension that were approved that have not?
There's
Does
no
anyone
other
keep a
benefit.
list of
There is no
anything?
other benefits other than enhanced retirement related benefits that have been talked about. There has not been any other talk about adding any other benefits. I mean, the only benefit that has been added is the gym membership. That was last year, and was added in FY 26 budget and is still in FY 27 budget. So that was an additional benefit. There is another, I wouldn't call it necessarily a benefit to employees, but in the FY 27 budget, the town is looking to change their retirement provider and will be covering the administration costs of that. So the employee doesn't have to pay for it. Other than that, there are no other additional benefits
Okay.
and nothing's being taken from, no benefits. So there's no premium being added to health insurance. There's no reduction in the HSA contribution. So there's nothing's being taken away from the
Okay.
employees.
So outside of any of that, is there anything that the previous council said should be done that had a dollar figure attached to it? Nothing to do with pensions, nothing to do with personnel, anything that the town of Plato's previous council put out there that could come back and have, that got approved that did not happen, because that was what they were saying.
No, so to get approved, if it's approved, then we would have had a resolution for it and something for us to follow. So there is nothing outside that is a contract that is pending, that is not in the budget, or any type of operation services that are not in the budget, because we haven't had any resolution or direction to do that. There's been a lot of talk about it, but unless we get direction,
So
I
the
don't.
process is they had a vote and that vote turns into a resolution.
Well, then we'd come back with the whatever work they want to be done. We come back with whatever, that's what the agenda summaries are for. Listen, here's what you asked for, here's what we're going to do, here's what it's going to cost. And then,
And that's what's happening with Dorchester right now.
well, that's, so yes, that's, they said they want us to pursue it. So the town manager is going to pursue what plans and figure out what companies will do this, come back with proposals and ask if the town council wants to do it. They'll vote on it. If they want to do it, then a resolution a resolution will be done and the town would then move forward.
So there's nothing really outstanding then, is there?
No,
No,
no.
even
That
though it
specific
sounds like it.
project's not in the fiscal 27
Yeah.
budget, is it?
What?
Dorchester.
Dorchester.
Yeah, it is. I put it in there because they gave us direction that they wanted us to do it. So they
But the
said,
grant's funding it at the moment, the maintenance on the lot down the road, that hasn't been. In order for Dorchester to happen, you've got grant funding sitting there, so
Yeah.
it'll be sitting there, revenue versus expenses,
yes.
right?
yeah,
That's sitting out there.
Mhm.
It's the operating piece down the road that.
yes.
has-
And they will have to make their minds up if whatever they choose to do, make sure that there's something to support it and and the town manager will come and bring that to them. Here is your options and they can make the decision.
I bet that probably wouldn't be till 28, right?
Well, it's encouraging that if it can be built in the 27 budget, but you raise a very good question. Once it's built, it has to be maintained and operated.
And
which
that
needs
was
to
a
be
discussion
filtered to
that the
the
council
TDA.
had.
And following
Yeah.
budgets.
And when they make the decision to move forward with it, that is something that they're going to, I would assume, make sure they understand what's going to happen, because that came up during the discussions when the Dorchester Community Center came up of who's going to be using it, who's going to be paying the operating costs. And the idea, there's different ideas that came out of there, and whatever comes back to them, they're going to have to make a decision on which route they want to go.
And has any of that discussion included fees from the public for
No.
use of the space? This is,
Not that I mean, again, it's still an idea, which the town manager is moving forward with because they,
town-owned property.
yes,
So the outstanding items were LEOPS, which moved forward, and Dorchester, which is moving forward.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then and because Public Works didn't get a vote on it, it's no longer considered an outstanding item.
Mm, it is not for this budget.
For the
If that
budget,
wants to
okay,
come, if they
okay.
want to come up with, if they want to bring that up, they can bring that up. Right now, that is not a
It's
direction
not,
I've got.
okay,
So
Okay,
it's,
so still back to it's a tight budget, but
Yeah,
yeah, there's nothing that we can foresee that's gonna. Is it tight every year?
yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, it's, yes. And like I've probably said the last few times is and every year we end up with a surplus, and the surplus is from investment earnings. Because if we didn't have that investment earnings, we would be very close to balanced or deficit. But because of those investment earnings, we've had significant surpluses.
so is it fair to ask you the question? You're closer to these numbers than any of us ever could be. What's your biggest worry? This budget.
Well, one of my concerns is we're relying on investment earnings. Right now, I think I have close to $500,000 in there, which I do not, I mean, I keep saying I don't anticipate it staying its way it is. And the next year, we still end up with $1 million in investment earnings. But then you look at, well, we still haven't used the fundings that we have here to support capital. So we still have this large amount that we're making investment earnings on. The other item is, I would say, with the water restrictions on us, the continued anticipation that we're going to continue to grow and not knowing how the economy is going to be, because we've had a really good right now. I don't know if 2007, 8 is going to start again. I don't know when that's going to come around. And the housing market has been very good. I don't know what's going to happen. And I think not preparing, I wouldn't say budget for the worst case scenario, but be prepared for the worst case scenario. The only thing that's advantageous to us is our large fund balance. So that if we end up in a situation 2-3 years from now where our revenues do come stagnant and we're not able to cover with the current revenues or expenses, we do have this now reserved to help us through it. And it's not going to stay like that forever. Even if we have a downturn, it always is a cycle. So it's just making sure we have something to fill that gap in. It's like having an emergency fund.
So is it wise or unwise to consider using some of those reserve funds to pay down debt?
Well, it's not wise to use because our debt is really low. Our rate that we are paying on our debt is extremely
That's
low.
the
That was the whole reason of doing it. I mean, it would not be advantageous to the town to pay off debt.
Yeah, I've been involved with 2 nonprofits that took
Yeah.
SBA idle loans during the COVID. And people are saying you ought to pay them off. I said, no, the rates are 2.75%. We can earn more money than that.
Yeah,
So,
what we're earning in our investments are almost twice than what our debt rate is. yeah.
okay, and then back to the water issue. I know the town and the county and the state have been having communications. How about the developers?
I'm
they
not
involved
involved
in
in
this
this.
conversation?
I have no idea. I'm not privileged
Because
to them.
If I were a developer, I'd want I want to have my thumb in that pie somewhere, right?
I'm sure there is.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Okay.
So, basically, I want to, unless you guys want to send me a statement of your opinion saying that it's a tight budget, that way I can collaborate all of your, opinions
That's
in
all I
one.
really have to say.
Okay, that's tight budget.
Do you, I don't know if you
Yeah,
have things.
I don't know if I'd have anything more to say. I mean,
Okay.
are you asking us to send it to you in email or would
Well,
this meeting record? be-
This meeting is fine. So
Okay.
your opinion on the budget is that, the revenues do not support a decent surplus for future savings, I guess. I'll
But we
find-
do have a cushion.
Yes, we do have a cushion. And
The budget can go forward and.
Yeah.
um,
again, our unassigned fund balance is significant that I'm not concerned this year or probably next year. Once we get an idea of what type of facility we need to develop to continue operations and growth, that might be a different opinion, but I don't have that information to create an opinion on it.
You know, this was so different from how we did it last year. Are we gonna stay with this format?
Probably.
Because we have to get some consistency
Yes.
in how we're thinking,
Mhm.
because we're jumping around. And I think that's a little confusing
Yeah.
too.
That is always challenging.
Well, I mean, the committee was new. We
Yeah.
really didn't know what direction it was going to go.
Correct.
Now our town manager's here and
And he has-
really the town manager is the one who decides what the committee
Mhm.
does. And his focus is to get more of analytics and opinions and
Mhm.
not recommendations or suggestions.
So let's get rid of the PowerPoints. Well, that we've been asked 3 times for
Yeah.
PowerPoints, and I think they need to. go.
Well,
I think
yeah,
They
so
mess everything
The
up.
last PowerPoint, the town manager went and put it into an item agenda
Yeah.
somewhere.
Well,
He
that's,
didn't do
that's
that.
a much, that, and I think that
Mhm.
that's how, if we have suggestions, and we should talk to the whole committee
Yeah.
when we have an opportunity, but if we have suggestions, opinions, recommendations as a committee, I think it should just be a document.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how we got into the whole PowerPoint thing.
Nicole did it once and
Okay.
thought it was pretty good when that was done for the debt
Okay,
when we.
yeah, that was a decent PowerPoint, but just it's a lot of work for us. It's a lot of move, especially as we can't collaborate outside of a meeting. It makes it very difficult
Mhm.
to pull some of that stuff together. So, and it's understandable. I mean, but we can, in a meeting, come up with bulleted lists and things like that.
So I'm trying to recall how the last council meeting occurred. What was provided to the council members prior to the meeting in version of hard copy? Or did everything they get was from Chuck's mouth at that meeting?
Well, he took what you guys gave him and incorporated into his document that he provided them. There wasn't a separate document from the finance
And there
committee.
wasn't much that he could use of ours because it was already now, and having watched the meeting and from what I went back and actually looked at the PowerPoint that we had sent through. And so some of the things never even got addressed because they weren't relevant because the 3 cents had already been put and,
Right.
and they already were able to, they
But
were going with a balanced budget.
were the council members provided something in advance of that meeting?
Yeah, they were
Okay.
provided the document that Chuck
Okay.
gave him and then all the worksheets that I provided you guys were also given to them.
Okay, because it's evident to me they had absorbed it because their responses clearly demonstrated to me that they had an opinion
Mhm.
and the opinion had to be based on something that was provided to them ahead of time.
Well, I mean, you got to consider some of them campaigned on saying that they were going to do this.
Well, I understand that. And
It wasn't coming from just that document. This has been a long road thing that has been talked about and talked about and talked about.
well, okay, so you're touching on, I felt there was a bit of a battle between Chuck and the council, which is not where we want to be. We're all in this together and we need to figure out a way to make sure that, these are the facts and
Mhm.
we'll give you the facts to help you, the
Mhm.
council, make the decision. Just be aware of what what's going to result as a result of
Mhm.
your decision either this way or this way.
Mhm.
Um,
And that's the way it's supposed to be. It wasn't meant to be, oh, you shouldn't do this for whatever. No, it was meant to give you information. We were comparing two different plans. We weren't comparing the entire budget or the scope of revenues or how that, we were comparing two different plans. And you just needed to make up your mind if you're willing, if that's the direction you want to go to. But just bear in mind, that's a large, what, 25% increase. And if that's where you want to allocate the town's funds, then so be it.
So this meeting on the 17th would be more along those lines because you have the whole package.
Well, it would be discussion of what's in the budget and what they're going to fund. So if they say they don't want to fund certain things, they can cut out. If they want to add certain things, then we've got to
So
look at the
what level
budget.
Of detail, obviously it's a lot more than what we've got. Are they literally down to the level of detail at the departmental level?
Well,
or-
you guys got the department. They're going to get the same detail you got,
Okay.
line item detail,
Right,
line
okay.
item detail. Yep. Yep. And it's going to be by department, just like the report was, just by
And they'll get
department.
that on the 3rd?
Yeah.
Okay, 2 weeks in advance.
Okay.
Anything else we need to cover?
No, I will just,
More
I will
information?
put a brief statement that the budget for FY 27 is balances, but it is a tight budget because the operating costs or revenue is supporting majority of operating costs. I'll put a percentage because it's like 98.5, something like that.
So do you have a meeting ending statement like you did for the meeting
Yeah,
beginning statement?
we have, we're going to adjourn the meeting, having not made any decisions or
We
recommendations.
provided opinions
We've provided
and had discussion.
informational discussion and provided our personal opinions. Done.
It's the, I sent a message to Kelly yesterday.
Can you close the meeting down, please?
I couldn't
Will
get
do.
it-
Meeting adjourned.
I could not get into the SharePoint. Is that broken?
I got in there last night.
You did?
Yeah, so maybe